All right, let's go over what our day 2 is going to look like in our July programming. So our day 2 is always going to have a pulling movement. We're going to do a deadlift today. This is going to be a conventional deadlift where we're pulling the bar from the floor. That's ideally what I'd like. If you don't have access to that and you have weights or kettlebell, dumbbell, then you're going to do that. And maybe you're at the gym and there's a back extension machine. Maybe you go to that instead. Essentially, what I'm looking for is getting the glutes and hams activated here. So when you are setting up, ideally, whatever movement you're going to do, you're going to make sure that your feet are under your hips, so a little bit closer together, and you're going to drive the butt back, getting a nice stretch in the hamstrings, and then you're going to squeeze the glutes forward. That's what's going to raise the trunk up and lift the weight. If you are holding on to weights, whether it's a barbell, kettlebell, dumbbells, that we want to make sure that we are wrapping our lats or our shoulder blades around versus pinching them together. So wrapping around and kind of locking those shoulder blades down so they're in our core and then our legs are doing the work. Keep that weight as close to the body as possible. Anything that's farther away is going to be harder and a lot more likely that that back is going to take over. Think mind-muscle connection. Think glutes are doing the work. The legs are doing the work. All right. After you're done with your deadlifts, we're going to do another hinging movement. We're going to come down to the floor for a glute bridge, but we're going to go single leg. And then I do want that heel to be elevated. I'm just going to throw a 45-pound plate down on the ground, and that's what I'm going to use. If you have a step bench or an aerobic step bench, then that will work just fine. If you don't want it too high though, so I would say nothing larger than like a normal step stair. With this one, I want you to make sure that your heel is actually on top versus on the edge of whatever elevation you have, because I don't want you to be pushing away. I want the heel to almost be pushing down and under to lift the hips up. Okay, so really think about, again, glutes and hamstrings with this hinging movement. Single leg, the one that's not doing the work is just kind of floating up and you're just kind of going up and down. Yeah, not a whole lot there. If you want to add weight to it, that's fine. All right, now we'll go to our upper body and we're going to grab the dumbbells for an incline press. You're going to set that bench to an incline of about 30, no more than 45 degrees. Again, another option I'm throwing out there is if you have a bench that doesn't do an incline, see if you can prop it up on something to create an incline. Same thing with like if you have a step bench at home or something, same thing. See if you can add more risers to one side and create an incline. As per usual with our presses that we do want to pinch those shoulder blades and pull them down and poof up the chest, and then making sure that we're actually pushing through our upper pecs and keep those elbows kind of at that 45 degrees, that we don't want to be up here pressing into the shoulders. We want the chest. Again, mind-muscle connection, squeezing those girls together. Then you're going to superset because we are going to keep that bench at an incline. You're going to flip on over so your chest is supported and you're going to perform your I's, Y's, and T's. So I want control here. I want like a 1 Mississippi pause at the top, slow control over to a Y. I like to lead with my thumbs for all the letters. If you feel comfortable to hold even like 2.5-pound plates to 5-pound plates, if you're holding more weight than that, it tends to get a little bit more squirrely rather than the control and working those little muscles. So again, lighter than what you think. So I's, Y's, T's here. Keep those shoulder blades pulled down, especially as you go overhead, that we don't want those shoulders to go into the ears. All right, moving on to another superset that we're going to do a Pallof press. You can do this with a band or a cable. I'm going to set up with a band. We're going to add the press and then rotate away, but then still control when you come back. Don't let that band just snap you back. Control it as you come back. And then if you want to add the presses, rotate, come back, press, rotate. If you want to just hit your rotation, I'm fine with that too. However you feel that you want to reset in the brain. Another cue that I like with this rotation is elbows are going to stay straight. Wherever your belly button goes is where your arms go. So I'm not twisting my arms when I'm doing the rotation. I'm leading with my belly button and my hips to rotate my arms. So I'm not really moving my arms at all. It's my torso. Okay, then we're going to superset that one with a side plank. So here we did the rotation. Now with our side plank, we're having to stabilize, but then we're going to add the hip abduction here. With this one, I usually just keep my bottom leg bent, so I'm pushing through my knee, shortening that lever a bit. And then the top leg will be out nice and long. Toes will be down, leading with the heel up, again, nice and controlled. All about strength here and controlling those movements. With your side plank, make sure you're just staying in that nice plank position. And so shoulders should be stacked, hips should be stacked, knees should be stacked. So we're not leaning over, holding the ground as we're pressing our leg out. We want nice, good form in all of these. Again, this is week 1. We're figuring out our weights that we're using and our intensity. So just get familiar with the movements and that control, and then we can dial in more as we go through the weeks. All right, that is what our day 2 is going to look like. Be sure to follow along. Each month changes. And if you want more coaching, make sure to DM me so you can join the whole Inside and Out crew. Okay.